Hi, everybody. My name is Morgan Wooden. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm an admissions counselor at Kent State Ashtabula. And today I'm going to be talking with you guys about the Junior Achievement It's My Future on the Hunt presentation. So just to kind of recap where you guys have been up until this point. So in your first session, you talked a little bit about what exactly is a brand and how you can put together your personal brand. You then kind of talked about different career paths and which ones could kind of cluster together and which ones you might be interested in pursuing. And then you kind of talked a little bit about high growth careers. So which careers are going to be bringing in maybe a little bit more money and which ones are going to be in demand in the future. And then you kind of put together a career map of how exactly you're going to get to that career. So you figured out a career that you're interested in, you know the steps of how to get there. So now we're going to talk a little bit about being on the hunt for that job. So we're going to go through the application process. And there's about 3 overarching themes that I'm going to talk with you guys about. And it's going to be building yourself a strong resume, identifying some of your references to include on the application, and then going over some interview skills that are going to make you seem like an awesome candidate for this job. So the first thing that you guys are going to do, and this is actually an activity that your teacher is going to walk you through, and it's called 2 Truths and a Myth. So it's pretty similar to 2 Truths and a Lie. There's going to be a variety of different topics that you're going to have, and each topic is going to have 4 rounds. So you're going to have a set of cards that is going to have 2 truths and a myth. Your task is being able to identify that myth. And then once you identify it, it'll talk a little bit about why it's a myth. And then once you've gone through and you've debunked about all of the different truths and myths about job searching, now it's kind of time to talk about where exactly do you find these available jobs. So there's a wide array of different places you could find them. So some of them are pictured here. So I mean, maybe there's a storefront that has a literal sign in the window that says, "We're hiring, come in and submit an application." Or maybe you might find them online. So there's a few different places you could find them online. Maybe they're on job boards, maybe they're on the company's website. Maybe you just hear about it through word of mouth, through folks that are talking about it. But regardless of where the jobs are posted, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to put together some type of a resume when you apply for the job. So what exactly is a resume, you might ask? Well, I'm so glad that you did. So a resume is a written summary of a person's education and work experience. So you guys might be young, maybe you've never really applied to a job before. That's totally okay. So if you don't have a lot of work experience, there are other ways that you could make yourself stand out on your resume. So now here, this is just going to be a short video and your teacher's going to show it to you. It's just going to go through a little bit about some tips and tricks about resume writing for beginners. So this next part here, so these are the different sections of a resume. So this first one here, so your name, address, email, and phone number. So making sure that you put your full name on the resume is really important. There's also another thing that's really important, especially with your phone number, is making sure that you have a voicemail that's set up, and maybe even one that has a pre-recorded greeting that says, "Hey, this is Morgan Wooden. I can't come to the phone right now, but leave your name, your number, and a message, and I'll get back to you." Because if an employer tries to contact you but can't leave you a message, how are you going to kind of close that gap and be able to communicate with them? So definitely make sure that you have your voicemail set up, and also make sure that you have an email address that you're checking frequently. So, you know, if you have an iCloud email address, but you're never on there, might not be a good idea to put it on your resume. This next part here, so your work and volunteer experience. So this is where you're going to list any type of paid jobs. So whether you are a babysitter, whether you mow your neighbor's lawn, whether you did some tutoring experience. You can also put any type of unpaid opportunities that are on there. So any type of volunteer experience or internships that you might have. Your extracurricular activities and achievements. So this could be anything from clubs or sports or organizations that you're a part of. You also have your education and academic achievements. So because you guys are still in school, this would be the opportunity to put what grade you're in. If you have a GPA that's really high, maybe above a 3.0, that would be an awesome thing to put on your resume. And then any type of relevant courses that you might have taken is an awesome thing to put on there as well. So then you have your personal qualities. So this gives you the opportunity to kind of brag about yourself a little bit. So maybe you could give the opportunity to show employers that you're super enthusiastic, you're super determined, and you work really well in teams. Those would be really good things to highlight under your personal qualities. So then the last section here, references. So references, what exactly are references, you might ask? I'm so glad that you did. References are people who can be contacted to attest to your skills and your character. So references are going to be people that can talk to a little bit about you professionally. So you're going to provide your employer with those names and their contact information. So when going through and adding your references, it's really important to know that family members aren't always a good example of a reference because they're always going to talk you up, right? They're always going to make you sound like an awesome person. So definitely make sure that you're keeping it more on the professional side. So this next portion here, so this is a little bit of an activity that you guys are going to do. So you now know where the jobs are listed and you know about what's on the resume, but it's also important to build in certain things that the job wants you to do into your resume. So making sure that you kind of build those two things together, this activity is going to walk you through those process. So now you have an awesome resume, you've put it together and you've submitted it. So what exactly comes next? If you're an employer and you have an awesome resume for somebody in front of you, what might you do with it? So there's a bunch of things you could do with it. You might call them and say like, hey, let's set up an interview. You might set up, you might call their references and say, hey, how is Morgan on a professional level? What are his skills that you can talk about? Maybe the employer will do that. But if they call and set you up an interview, you want to make sure that you have some really good skill sets to go into that interview. This video is going to talk a little bit about those skills. So now just to kind of recap everything that I talked about with you guys. So job hunting is absolutely a process. You know, I wish it was as easy as saying like, hey, here's this job. I want this job. And then you just press the button and say, okay, I have the job now. I wish it was that easy, but unfortunately it's a little bit of a process. So you want to make sure first and foremost that you're finding a job that not only interests you, but matches your skill set. And then your next step is going to be actually going through and applying for that job, often with a resume, and then providing your employer with some solid references that can talk about you on a professional level. And then finally, making sure that you have a good impression with that employer during your interview. And then obviously, I guess the next step after that is check marking that final box of getting hired. So that kind of caps up your on the hunt presentation. So now that kind of brings us to your final stage here, your final presentation that you guys are going to have. So you have the job. Your final session within Junior Achievement is going to talk a little bit about how you're going to keep that job. So if you guys could, if you have any type of feedback that you want to provide, we want to make sure that we're providing you with excellent presentations. So we welcome any type of feedback, but I wish you guys the best of luck, and who knows, maybe I'll be talking with some of you guys in the future when it comes time for you to start applying for colleges. Thank you so much, guys.